cloud or computer. Like what? I'm not going to record it to a cloud. What are they, stupid? Okay. Um, Live episode number 36 as we review the Illini's loss to Baylor. We also will discuss the next game and some more news and what Underwood had to say after the game. And then, the beginning of the Big Ten schedule has been more details on it, what times, what networks, all that stuff we'll talk about later. But let's start Illinois. Actually, you know what? Let's start with the news of the day real quick, just because, they were supposed to play University of Tennessee Martin tomorrow, and that has been canceled after a positive test in their program, the UTM program. But we will talk about more of that later. Just wanted to put that out there to start. Let's start now with the game. Illinois loses 82-69 to number 2 Baylor, and they're now 3-1 in the season, and their next game won't be until next Tuesday. So I would say this game was a little closer than the final score.
Yeah, it was close for a while, and then Baylor just kind of ran away with it. So I mean, Baylor's defense is pretty impressive, and Illinois didn't seem to have an answer for it. 82-69, like you said. We both didn't think Illinois was going to win this game. I mean, by our predictions, at least. 83-76 was my guess. Yours was 78-71, so pretty close. I think Vegas started at like 2.5 and went all the way up to 5 at one point. So, I mean, Baylor is definitely, you can tell they are a top 2 team. Them and Gonzaga, which they play on Saturday, I believe, is going to be a great game. Should be a great game. 2 completely different styles, one defensive minded and then one offensive minded. So, but into this game, my player of the game, nice to write this guy's name down. I mean, it's an Illinois loss, but Georgie Bashansvili coming off the bench with Kofi in foul trouble, went 7 for 10 from the field for 15 points. He had 13 in the first half, only had 2 in the second half. But it was the first time that Georgie had been in double figures since January 21st. I know that we haven't played a lot of games since then, but still nice to see him get going. He made a wide open 3, which, you always get scared when Georgie shoots 3s, but he made one, pulled down 4 rebounds, played 24 minutes, and seemed to be the only guy in the first half that was actually getting any production against the Baylor defense. A lot had to do with maybe Curbelo being able to get to the lane and dish off to him. Georgie made some nice moves down low, which, you look at Kofi and he just doesn't have that ability that Georgie has around the hoop. So Underwood said of Georgie that he was outstanding, and that's the old Georgie we all know and love, which is absolutely correct. So your player of the game?
Yeah, well, I don't know how I can't go with someone other than Georgie, but I would give a shout out to Curbelo.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
yeah,
Georgie
Curbelo had a heck of a game too.
Georgie, when he shot that 3, I believe I was one to say don't do that, and it went in shockingly.
Absolutely.
But
I think I yell at every time Georgie shoots.
Yeah, I mean this situation with Kofi and Georgie is a tough one because Georgie was way better in this game than Kofi, and Kofi has looked bad most of this season, and he hasn't improved. He's gotten a little bit worse, it seems, in the minutes that we've seen him. Foul trouble and stuff. I think the referees in this game, very inconsistent. Very inconsistent. I think there's a lot of stuff they should have called that they didn't, and stuff that they called that they shouldn't have. So
but I don't think it didn't affect the game that much. Underwood, speaking of Curbelo, Underwood said after the game that moving forward, we'll continue to see people load up on IO, and he welcomes that challenge and what it will open up for Curbelo. He also said of Curbelo, he's elite now. I'm just throwing that out there. He's really good. I'm so encouraged by that. We see it every day in practice when he's been healthy. He's just been scary. And Curbelo, I mean, people talked about, his turnovers and stuff like that. He only had one turnover this game. So, and it was on the sideline. I don't know, he's done that a couple times, but it was just he's on that sideline and he doesn't realize where he is or whatever. But and I guess Curbelo had a concussion, and of course we saw the rolled ankle, so he hadn't been practicing much up to this game either. So Curbelo, I think is going to be real good. A guy that we'll definitely be talking about a lot.
If
But
if there was going to be a game where he's going to turn the ball over a lot, it would have been this one. And
yeah,
Frazier turned the ball over a lot in this game.
Frazier.
And I think I don't. Do we really want someone other than Curbelo to run the point when he's on the floor? I mean, I feel like he should have the ball.
That's the thing is Io. I think
Terrible.
Io's kind of went into running the point,
I don't like it.
and yeah, and I don't think that it's necessary with a guy like Curbelo. So, and you talk about Illinois' offense, and I mean, this game was just kind of ugly out the gate. Is back and forth both ways. But Illinois they were running the weave against that. The Baylor runs this kind of like slack
Oh
off
boy.
defense where they switch on everything.
Yeah.
So Illinois is running the weave outside, and Baylor's guys just basically never moved. I mean, and if they did, they were moving 2-3 feet, whatever. And it just wasn't working, and it they never seemed to change that. And the only change they made was kind of give Io the ball and see what he can do.
Yeah, the changes they made was give Io the ball. He'll stand there and dribble it until there's 8 seconds in the shot
Yeah,
clock, and then he'll try
especially
to
late.
get a runner and miss it.
That was
It's
rough.
terrible.
Yeah, and then Adam Miller had a rough game. He was coming off Big Ten co-freshman player of the week, and he started off like with a turnover early, and he ended up going 0 for 6 from 3, which as shooter and a guy, and I love his confidence. I love that he's missing and he's still throwing them up because he's a shooter, and that's what shooters should do. Um, but Illinois went 7 of 18 from 3, and Miller was 0 for 6. So he missed a third of them. And you look at the other guys, and not by name or anything, but one guy 2 of 3, another 2 of 4, 1 of 2, 1 of 1, 1 of 1, and 0
Do
and 1.
you know who all those are?
I have a lot of them down later. Trent was 2 for 4. DeMonte, I think, was 1 for 2. Io was 2 for 3. Curbelo was 1 for 1,
Georgie, 1 for 1.
and Georgie was 1 for 1. And then Hawkins had a really nice look at a 3, and it was in and out and came out. But so I think honestly, I think Illinois didn't shoot enough threes this game. Miller shot 6 of them, but the other guys were shooting. I mean, Illinois shot 40% from the 3, and one guy went 0 for 6. So I feel like they needed to probably shoot the ball more, because when Io would go to the hoop, he'd have 3 guys collapse on him, and he just couldn't do anything. I mean, it
He
was
didn't kick it
hard to
out
do
at
anything.
all.
Yeah.
And I think he should be confident in trying to go down there and score. But at some point, when you have no chance to even throw a shot up that's even close several times, at some point
Yeah.
you got to kick the ball out.
And
And
those-
what
but
Baylor
those are-
does is they
Yeah.
collapse in the lane, and you're going to have perimeter shots where you can kick the ball out. The fact
Yeah.
that they made no offensive adjustments in this game, other than to just give Io the ball and see what happens when you're down 10 and you're just standing there and there's no movement on offense, there's no sense of urgency. That is the number one thing that I dislike about Underwood's coaching to this point.
Yeah, and that's what we did it last year. We questioned at halftime. Would he make any changes? And it doesn't seem like they are. But I don't know what you run against that kind of defense. Honestly, I text in the group of my buddies, and I'm like, it'd be nice to run a set offense. Well, he's like, what set offense do you run against that when they're switching on everything? And
they were also Illinois was dribbling way too much. I mean,
yeah, and they
a couple
did
turnovers that were based on dribbling.
Yeah, and Trent was one of those guys that did that. He did knock down a 3 early. He was kind of in rhythm coming up the court and just kind of popped it up. He ended up banking another one in. I think he banked one in last time. But every time it seemed like he went inside the 3-point arc, that he coughed the ball up. And he had a pretty big one towards the end of the half, uh, where Illinois was up 1, and he kind of dribbled around for a while, went in, got triple teamed, and gave the ball to Baylor, which ended up giving Baylor the lead going into half. And I think he had 5 turnovers. I saw somewhere he had 6, but that you just can't have that. I mean, Trent, he's a shooter, and I want to see him shoot. And Curbelo, I think, we've talked about, he had a few turnovers the first few games, but against the best defense he's probably going to see all year, he only had 1. So I do you get to the point where Curbelo's better in that position than Trent? And I talked about it last episode.
Well,
does Curbelo end up playing more than Trent?
let me ask you this one. Would you be surprised with, I'll give you 2 options. Option A, Trent starts the next game against Duke, but Curbelo plays an even amount or more minutes, or Curbelo starts against Duke over Frazier.
I don't see him starting over him.
I would like to send if we're going to send a message, you send it in this game. You have Curbelo out there, you get flying early, you get some buckets up. Curbelo can create some offense with his playmaking, and obviously Duke has good players. They're very talented, but they don't have the defense that Baylor does. Baylor has 2 all-American, basically, defensive players. I mean, if you look at all defensive teams in the country, Baylor has every guard on Baylor can guard the ball, and they're very like Davion Mitchell is one of the best on-ball guard defenders in the country.
Yeah,
and Mark Vital,
he gets
fake smacked in the face. Yeah, whatever. That's a whole big thing that I know that you didn't like, but
I didn't like that at all. The second time, I don't even think he got touched.
And then, you look at their other...
No flop call anymore.
You look at their other players and their starters. I mean, Mark Vital is basically a linebacker. He's huge. And Jared Butler just made it look so easy. Defensively, he was really good. And every time he wanted to score, he basically could.
Yeah.
It just seemed like Illinois was a little bit overwhelmed.
And, we talk about Kofi and Georgie playing at the same time. And then, Georgie gets stuck on Butler out beyond the arc. And
terrible.
There's no chance. I mean, he had no chance. I did think Kofi's D at the beginning of this game was a lot better than we saw the last few games. You could tell when Baylor got inside, he was altering shots. They were kind of worried about him. But then he goes and gets 2 fouls in the first 9 minutes and doesn't play the whole, first half. But on that note, Georgie comes in, scores 13 points, and basically carries Illinois to, down 1 at half. So, and then, Kofi gets his 3rd foul a minute into the second half, and then he sits another, 7 minutes. He only played 18 minutes this game, which is that good or bad?
Terrible.
Because the way he's playing right now, his hands are not good. He just does not look like he's improved.
I would have rather had him out there.
Yeah. I mean, defensively, I can see him out there and maybe running some, better offense for him. Get him out there and setting screens more so he can roll the hoop.
If he had better hands, I would love to see him out. Whenever he's out there, I want Curbelo out there because Curbelo is the only one that is willing to throw it up.
I love it. Yeah. And that's what I mean. Curbelo did that this game. And I'm just sitting there like nobody else on Illinois can do that.
Yeah.
Because I thought Curbelo was shooting a floater. And all of a sudden, here comes Kofi and slams.
Yeah, here's another thing. I think Underwood's probably watching this right now, and I want to give him an idea. Start Curbelo on Tuesday.
Come to the podcast, Underwood.
Do that as well.
Don't be scared.
Start Curbelo on Tuesday and run the first play alley-oop to Kofi, get some energy going, because nobody's better, and this is a bad thing, nobody's better at letting games get away from him than Kofi. I mean, he starts out solid, and then fouls come in, and then he's starting to bobble the ball on rebounds, and then his own teammates are fighting him for boards.
Yeah.
Got to be better communication. You're in a virtually silent arena, and you're still having communication issues with rebounding. It's not good.
Right. I agree. The box outs were terrible, but so first guys in off the bench. This kind of seems to be the thing. He brings in Curbelo, Hawkins, and Georgie for Miller, DeMonte, and Kofi. And Curbelo played well. I thought Hawkins played well.
Yeah, he did.
But he only played 5 minutes.
Yeah.
but yeah, he had a really nice block. He had a great look at three that, I mean, I don't know how it didn't go in, and he didn't seem to do anything wrong. So I don't understand if I'd rather see Hawkins and Kofi out there than Georgie and Kofi, or even Hawkins and Georgie. But maybe Hawkins, I didn't notice, but maybe he's a step slow on defense, but he can't be any slower than Georgie. I mean, there were a lot of times Georgie just doesn't close out on shooters, or he has the wrong guy. But and then Hawkins Curbelo went down, got a breakaway layup, ended up missing it, and then Hawkins came and tried to slam it down, got fouled, misses both his free throws, and free throws are just
Oh God.
they've been rough this year. Illinois was 10 of 16, and Baylor was 15 of 24. So they both shot 62.5% from the free throw line.
And
So
Baylor had way more.
surprisingly, the numbers of this game were a lot closer than I kind of thought.
Well, did Baylor shoot better from the field than Illinois?
Um,
And the only reason, if they did, the only reason is that small stretch.
um, 54. That's the wrong game.
Illinois shot 41%, I think, right?
Illinois shot 44%,
44.
and Baylor shot 45.
Yeah, I mean
So,
that the only reason that happened is because Baylor started to hit some shots in that little 5 minute stretch, and Davion
yeah,
Mitchell hit a bunch of threes.
hit a
And
bunch. Yeah,
yeah,
and Hawkins in his 5 minutes had 3 rebounds. So I mean, it's not like he wasn't getting boards. Um, and we mentioned Curbelo, what he did. He only played 16 minutes this game, which kind of surprising. But he had 4 fouls, so um, he was 3 of 6 from the field. Made all 4 of his free throws. Had 11 points, 4 assists. Um, I mean, he seemed to be, like I said, the only guy that could get into the lane, and he had a nice one to Kofi. He had a nice pass off to Georgie, which Georgie almost chucked off the backboard, but it went in. But it's just it's what you need to decide how you're going to attack these defenses, or a defense like Baylor. And it seemed like Curbelo was one of the answers to that, and didn't really get to show it off as much as maybe he should have. But so Io, not not the greatest game from Io. Um, I looked at the stats afterwards, and was shocked to see that he scored 18 points in this game.
yeah.
Um, he played 38 minutes, so I think he was on the bench. Not, he was only on the bench for 2 minutes, but he was 6 of 18, and he just kind of fell off. When he had threes, I mean, his shot looks really good. You texted me about that. He looks really good from behind the arc. It's just that it's that patented IO, go to the right of the hoop and throw it up, and usually those fall, and they just weren't falling, and sometimes they were collapsing. IO ended up having 3 turnovers, so it was just a hard night for him, and uh, it's understandable that it was a hard night, but he seemed like he was feeling it a lot too. Somebody said that at towards the end of the game, he was just kind of hanging his head, like, what do I do? How do I go against this? But like you said, I feel like he was kind of trying to do too much. You know, in maybe not on him, but maybe on the coaches for not trying to change something up. But I mean, this is Io's team, so if you're gonna have somebody do something, it's gonna be Io, and you gotta live with it. I mean, we're gonna live and die off Io. It is what it is. So, um, I thought that he was probably one of the better rebounders that Illinois had this game. Um, Between him and DeMonte, I feel like Io seemed to go after every rebound. He played hard. There's no doubt that he wasn't playing hard. Um, but DeMonte, I felt like, was the only guy boxing people out, and he got called for like 3 fouls boxing people out, which is absolutely crazy. the one, it was towards the end of the game, and DeMonte's literally running towards the basket, and the Baylor guy's leaning on him and falls to the ground. They called the foul on DeMonte.
Ridiculous.
Another one was Vital, but this was Georgie. Georgie was boxing him out, and Vital falls to the ground, and it's like, come on, Georgie ain't knocking that dude down. But
dude weighs 250.
I know, but DeMonte led the team with 7 fouls. He was 1 of 2 from 3, made a nice open shot. Feel like he needs to start shooting more. I feel like his shot's fine. I mean, he's shooting like 70% from 3, 65%.
The good thing is that no one is going to key on DeMonte as a 3-point shooter.
Right. And they left him wide open on that one, the one he made. But
maybe Georgie's a 3-point specialist now. Maybe he is. He hit that big one wide open.
Whoa, pump the brakes.
I wouldn't hate him. How about maybe the way to fix Kofi is for him to just knock down a 3 and then he'll just start feeling it.
You know, they said he's been working on his shot. Why doesn't he try popping out one time? But, you know, I was talking about stats and the whole game, my buddies and us, you know, and you, we're talking about rebounds, and Illinois is not rebounding. The rebound differential was only 3.
It was the Illinois offensive rebounds that were killer.
Yeah, Illinois had 35. Baylor had 38. Offensive, though, 11 for Illinois, 16 for Baylor, and Baylor had like 24 second chance points.
Who killed them?
Yeah, but Baylor has always been a good rebounding team. That's what they do. But it's not like Illinois just got killed on the boards. It was just they gave up way too many offensive, it seemed like. So, like I said, they ended up trailing at half, 31-30. Should have probably been up. You know, Frazier kind of coughed up the ball, gave Baylor an easy basket, and then Io comes down and he kind of passed off the ball to DeMonte like 24 feet away from the basket. I don't know why Io just didn't go at that point, but it is what it is. And then I feel like this is the question we always have at half is will Underwood adjust or will he be outcoached once again?
I mean,
he didn't. I don't know if you call it outcoached, but you look at Baylor and their offense never stopped moving. They were setting off the ball screens. They were running some sort of motion. In Illinois, it's stagnant unless they're doing that weave. I don't know. Like, you know, I watched that, or I went to that Zoom call with Gentry, and he was talking about, you know, these plays they run, and it didn't seem like they ran anything. And you know, at halftime, down 1, you text me. You said Io hasn't done anything. Keep it PG. Kofi is sitting out most of the half, and then we were up 2 at the time. Might be a good sign. And I thought, absolutely, this might be a good sign. Illinois has a chance. And then, like, the 10-minute mark hit, and Baylor just took over the game. And it was kind of just downhill from there. They kind of started pressing a little bit more. Frazier had a lazy pass to Curbelo in the middle that got picked off. And Illinois was down 4 at like 11:30. And then all of a sudden, Baylor was up like 13 or 14 within 2 minutes. It was 65-51 at the 7-minute mark. So just kind of they just seemed to lost it, and they lost their assignments. You know, their defensive assignments. When Baylor was coming down, Georgie's going out to guard the guard when Curbelo's standing there right next to him. And I feel like Trent doesn't close out quick enough. I feel like he can be quicker on the 3 to close out. I'm not saying that it's bad. I mean, his hand's up there, but kind of giving him open shots and the long rebounds. They talked about it all game. The long rebounds Baylor would get, you know, the offensive boards that they kicked out for 3. You know, Illinois just kept doing that. But, you know, we talked about kind of how Illinois' offense was towards the end. And, you know, there's 3 minutes and 50 seconds left. Kofi gets an and 1. Illinois goes down 9. So they're only down 9 at that point. Still a chance, you know. And Illinois comes down the court the next time, and Io's just standing there with the ball. and let 10, 15 seconds run off the clock. And then, all he did was take it to the hoop. It was weird.
You know what it felt like? It felt like a rec league team on offense, just standing there, nobody moving. Pretty much what I do offensively is just stand there. And
one of my buddies calls it hero
that.
ball.
I can't believe that.
You're trying to let one guy do everything. Drive and dish something. I mean, when Io has 3 guys on him, he needs to understand that there's 2 guys open, a little bit more. But again, it's Io, it's his team. I'm not gonna hate on him for having a rough night because it was Baylor, and Baylor's a really, really good. So Mitchell ended up hitting a 3 to make it 80-67 with like a minute left, and he was 4 for 4 at that point. And so it was just kind of the nail in the coffin. So after the game, Underwood said, "It's a frustrating night, not going to win many games when Io and Adam shot what they shot and Trent turns the ball over like that." Kind of what we've been saying this whole time. You're not going to win a lot of games doing that. So,
yeah, would they have shot the way that they shot if Illinois, changed up their offense rather than just stand there?
But I mean, Miller had good looks; they just weren't going in. I mean,
why didn't they get out and run
he makes
more?
half of those, and Illinois gets Yeah, I know that's a big thing on you. You wanted them to
transition buckets. Io scored 5 of his points in like 15 seconds off of an easy lane in transition and a 3 in transition. Right. I don't think there's any team in the country that has the combination of talent and the ability to get out and run in transition and score like this team. I don't think anybody can defend that. It made no sense why they didn't try to run.
That's the thing is Kofi runs, Georgie runs. I mean, they're conditioned to run, and but I mean, Baylor slow. They started running that 3/4 press, and
even in like the beginning of the second half and the first half, they weren't doing that. So you could understand why I wanted to throw the remote at the TV when every time they got a rebound and then just walked it down the court.
Sure.
I don't like that. You got to get out and run. Nobody can do it with you. You're going to get easy transition buckets. You're going to get open looks from Miller and Io and Trent DeMonte.
Mm-hmm.
Kofi can run the floor like you said. He's probably one of the best big men with his size to be able to run the floor like that.
Yeah.
And they don't use it to their advantage.
Probably when he's best, when he's running at the hoop and, people got to try to stand in his way. It's definitely not when his back's to the basket and he's posting up. You never know what's going to happen once he gets the ball. So, but, I mean, the thing about this is this is great for Illinois to play this game. This isn't the end of the world. Illini Twitter, it's not the end of the world. Let's just pump the brakes a little bit, understand where we're at. And Baylor's defense, we've been talking about it. Brad Sturdy, who reports for rivals.com. He's at Sturdy32. It was funny because I took a screenshot and then you immediately sent me this tweet. He had a friend message him about Baylor's defense, and this was against NBA talent basically. Halliburton went 2 of 12 with 6 points. He was an NBA lottery pick. Josh Green went 3 of 9 with 8 points, first rounder. Nico Mannion 3 of 14 for 15 points, second rounder. Desmond Bain 5 of 14 for 14 points, first rounder. And hit me with that name.
Something Ramsey.
It's got to be Jameis.
Jamius.
Jamius Ramsey. 5 of 13 for 13 points. He was a second rounder. So Io being, 18 points and what was his in line? 6 of 18.
You can add to the list Io DeSumo. 6 of 18, 18 points. Second round.
First rounder. Whoa.
That's where he's at right now.
Okay. Yeah. He's is he 30th right now? I think in the latest.
I bet after that game, with the way people overreact, he'll probably be like 45th or something.
Sure. And Underwood after the game said, Io better get used to that, but not many teams have the firepower to do what they, as in Baylor, did against him. And he's absolutely correct. he's not going to face a team this defensively good. Probably until the tournament when they meet Baylor, in the Final Four or whatever it is. So,
well, shout out to Baylor Twitter account.
Yeah.
Liking our tweet too.
Liked our tweet. Thanks, Baylor.
Illinois Twitter account's never done that.
It doesn't do that.
Interesting.
So, and then you wanted to share this too. Brad Sturdy also put this on Twitter. You want to talk about this?
Okay. I'm going to find it right here on the paper. Okay. So he says, so we like to complain about offense, but Baylor allowed 4 teams last season to score over 1.03. I'm assuming that is points per possession. 4 times in 31 games. They were 2-2 in those games. Illinois was at 1.045, so slightly ahead of 1.03 that they allowed the 4 teams to do.
And Baylor's won, 23 games in a row now, going back to last year. I mean,
good for them. They wouldn't have done that if the tournament happened, but
right.
That stat right there shows you that this game was closer than 13 points.
Yes, yeah, and it was, and it was just that I think it was a 9-1 run that Baylor went on, and that's what it takes to win these games. I mean, in these games, whatever team does that, in the last 5-10 minutes is probably going to win. Like I said, Illinois had a chance to get back in it. They were within 9 with 4 minutes left, so it is what it is. It was a good game, and I wrote down this is nothing but an opportunity. Io was off. Miller basically wasn't there. Curbelo grew. Georgie, my boy, is back. We hope. Fingers crossed. And we kind of learned that Kofi probably isn't NBA ready, and still needs a lot of work.
I feel like probably is a little bit of an understatement.
Yeah, probably.
Being a little nice.
Yeah. So, do you want to yell at #Illini, or you just want to skip that?
80% of the #Illini people on Twitter who complain are people who know nothing about the team or the sport of basketball, and they are bitches. So there you go. Not keeping it PG for that part. Jeez.
Whoever watches us, let's not be those people.
If you're gonna complain, then don't put the #Illini there, because nobody knows who your Twitter is, so they're not gonna see your tweet unless you put #Illini.
Exactly.
I'll say what Curbelo said, and then you can do the.
I'll take care of my dogs.
Curbelo says this is an exact quote from his Instagram. In a war with, as the kids say, hella wounds, and yet they still find something, I'll help them there, wrong to say. Unsurprising. That's pretty much the definition of Illini fan Twitter, which, not calling everybody out. I think most of the Illini fans are good. I think a lot of people that I follow on Twitter and the podcast account follows on Twitter are good and know something about the team. But as Curbelo said, he pretty much described Illini fans, for the most part on social media, the ones that overreact, pretty perfectly.
Yeah, and I don't know if this was just about him. I don't know if it was about the rest of the team.
I don't know who's going to say something negative about him after that game, because he was like the spark plug.
Right. I did see that somebody shared it on Twitter, and Frazier's dad liked it and said something. So I'm sure people were all over Frazier too for his turnovers. Like I said, you make mistakes, we move on. It was a good building experience. I did write this down. Ryan Evan on Twitter, I think, summed it up pretty well. We've had Ryan on the show. He usually retweets our live shows, so we appreciate you. But this is what he said on Twitter. This Illini team won 12 games 2 years ago. Now they're a top 5 team who lost in the final 10 minutes to a legit top 2 Baylor team. This team has many young pieces who will get better. It's okay to take steps to be great in March. Relax. Just thought that was really good from him. That's kind of how I feel. I know that's probably how you feel. And then I got one more quote from Underwood before we finish up the Baylor stuff. He said, "The more I watch the film from the Baylor game, the more I get excited about our team because of where Baylor is at." So
nice
Underwood
excuse.
Understands how good Baylor is, but so I think that it'd be good that Illini Nation realizes how good Baylor is too.
No, it wouldn't. I think we should just complain and talk about how much this team sucks and what have they done to earn a top 10 ranking. Here's what they've done. They won 21 games last year. They would have been a 5, 6, or 7 seed. They have one of the best players in the country. They have another returning player who's a Big Ten freshman of the year. They have a all Big Ten freshman player in Adam Miller. I can go on. They have depth. They won 21 games, like I said. And Iowa's number 3 for like the exact same reasons, except they have the runner-up National Player of the Year coming back, who's also one of the best players in the country. So what do you want them to base the top 25 off of? You want them to base it off of what last year was, which would make no sense, or the players on the teams and how they performed last year? So I saw a lot of people saying, what has Illinois done to deserve this ranking? Like, what are you talking about? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Ridiculous.
I mean, it's early. Rankings honestly don't mean anything right now anyways. So, but in other great Illini basketball news, Big Mac Etienne, who we have been talking about, it seems like a year and a half now. Well, I don't know if we've been doing shows that long, but chooses UCLA, which comes as quite a shock, quite a blow. Class of 21 is in rough shape right now. I don't know what their plans are, if they got other guys they're going to be looking at. But this one I think it took everybody by surprise. All the guys that follow recruiting, I sent it to my buddies and they said Champaign needs better weather. I don't know. I mean, if I had UCLA go to California playing Champaign, I get it. But it's rough. So we're probably not ever going to talk about recruits again on this show because this year's kind of been terrible. And every time we talk about somebody, get hyped about somebody, Illinois loses out.
Adam Miller came here.
That's true. Adam Miller did come here, but then we kind of already know he committed. He just hadn't signed.
Well, we were talking about him though, so
it's true. Word is that the NCAA is going to pass the one-time transfer rule. So players will be immediately eligible for the first time they transfer, which could be huge for the class next year. Get some guys out of the transfer portal, especially if Illinois is really good this year and, make a deep run like we think they should. That could help pick up some guys out of there. And then there has been talk about Frazier and DeMonte could come back. I'm not sure about this. A lot of people have talked about it. We've seen tweets about it. I could have swore that we talked about it in our podcast. I went back and listened to like 7 of them, and we never did. I think that I sent you a message about it. I think I texted you about it. And we kind of read it and looked at it, and then we're like, I don't think it counts. And yeah, maybe it does. So I don't know. We might be able to see Frazier and DeMonte back next year. So
every writer, everyone that covers the Illini makes
it
seem like they will be back. I don't know why they wouldn't.
Yeah. I need to find that the messages that we had about that, because the way it read, it was just worded weird. So we'll have to check that back out.
Has DeMonte or Frazier acted like this is their last year?
Yeah, Frazier did.
I don't understand it.
I'm pretty sure Frazier put out a tweet about the last.
Maybe he forgot about the rule.
I don't know.
Maybe he'll want to leave.
Maybe he'll transfer.
Yeah, transfer to like DePaul or Memphis.
I know I follow him. Where the heck's he at?
DeMonte should come back.
He's got a lot of fake accounts. That one's locked.
I bet I could find it way fast. He probably blocked you.
Probably because you were talking crap about him on the podcast.
He said, "Let's rock" on the 24th. What else did he say?
I thought he just said, "Really?" Okay.
Yeah, so nice try. You're trying to bait him into leaving.
Year 4, Last Dance, October 9th. Let me go get my dogs. You go ahead and talk about whatever you want.
He's talking about the Michael Jordan thing, obviously. Let's see if there's any articles about this. I'm gonna find out if there's any articles about this for year 5.
Yeah, it says year 4 Last Dance, and it's a picture of him and DeMonte. So I don't know.
I'm trying to find out if anyone's written an article about this deal.
I like I said, I need to find. I sent you a screenshot. Can you go back in messages that far?
Probably. Well, there's a tab where you can look at all the pictures that we've sent.
Yeah, I'll see if I can find it. But you want to talk about the Big Ten? I'll see if I can find this.
Yeah. This article from September says DeMonte and Frazier's final college season. I don't understand the whole thing. Other people think that it's one way, and others think it's the other way. It's a whole deal.
Right. It's very confusing.
The first 4 games for the Big Ten for the Illini, they've released the times and TV networks that these will be on. So on December 15th, which is 11 days from now, they will play Minnesota at the State Farm Center at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on ESPN2. Then they play Rutgers on the Sunday, the 20th at noon Central on ESPN2 as well. Then on the 23rd, they play Penn State at 5:30 Central on a Wednesday on Big Ten Network. And then on Saturday, the 26th, the day after Christmas, because there is Christmas games in the Big Ten. Illinois is not one of them, but they play the day after the Saturday at 3 Central on FS1 against Indiana. So, you got 2 home games and then 2 road games to start the Big Ten season. I'm sure they'll release more of the times and networks. So you're going to be on ESPN2 twice, Big Ten Network, then FS1, and then the 2 games coming up that we'll talk about here. Duke, that game will be on ESPN, and then the Missouri game is going to be on SEC Network for some reason, which is just ridiculous, but I guess they can't change it now. So let's get into tomorrow's deal, which is that they were supposed to play the University of Tennessee Martin. Positive test for the Skyhawks, I believe is their name, and they will not be able to play. So we knew things like this would happen, as my boy John Rothstein, even though you put Joe Rothstein for some reason.
I just like messing up his name every time.
Says 2021 or 2020-21 scheduling is wilder than a goat rodeo. I've heard that 1,000 times. We know that.
I hear it's contagious. What's he say? What thing does he also say?
It spreads.
It spreads.
God, you not pay attention to anything? Obvious. Jeez.
I don't know. Hopefully you put hashtag it spreads on this and it'll retweet us.
So no game before Duke, but word is practices have been intense since the Baylor game with an emphasis on defensive intensity and blown assignments. Now let me just ask you this. Was that on Thursday? They practiced the day after? Because I know they were off today.
I don't know. Just heard that.
I bet.
Word on the streets.
Yeah.
Yeah, which I mean, yeah, their defense wasn't spectacular, but
they were good for the first half, and the beginning of the second half they were very good defensively. But
I mean, they gave up 51 in the second half.
They got overwhelmed. Offense 51. Yeah, 31 plus 51 is 82. Nice try.
Close.
Underwood says they will try to schedule an extra Big Ten game, preferably with one of their single plays, which is Iowa or Michigan State, possibly.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what's going to happen. They're going to play Iowa twice or Michigan State twice. So they're going to get an extra Big Ten game. So you got 6 non-conference as long as the Duke and Missouri games happen. And then you already have 20 Big Ten games scheduled. You're going to have 21 scheduled after that. So
that's 100 times better than playing UT Martin sometime down the road.
I guess, but a free win is cool. I mean, nothing wrong with a free win.
I don't think free wins are going to matter as much this year. Haven't they been saying it's all about the eye test this year?
Well, if we're looking at the eye test, then it's
Gonzaga versus Baylor,
and then everybody else.
Right.
And then okay, but how do you think they'll weigh the eye test versus the competition? I feel like Iowa's looked really good to start the season, right? Who have they played? North Carolina
Nobody.
Central or whatever. Then they played
Right.
Western Illinois, and then some other garbage school.
But the Big Ten's going to be what they're
Yeah, I'm
looking
just
at.
saying, like
It's not going to be
non-conference.
these games. Didn't you say that like the statistics on like the first couple of Illinois games stopped like 10 minutes in or something because it was so far away? Or did I read that
Did
somewhere?
I say that? I don't think I said that.
Must have read it somewhere.
So
Anyways,
we'll get into the Illinois Duke game. That'll be Tuesday at 8:30 Central, so another later game.
why is Illinois got to play all these late games?
Well, usually the ACC Big Ten Challenge, the big time game is like the 8 o'clock window on Tuesday.
Wasn't the UT Martin game supposed to be at like 8 o'clock?
Yeah, it's supposed to be 8, yeah. But,
Anyways,
and the Missouri game's at 7, so that's pretty late too.
that's normal.
7, usually 6 is when Illinois used to play because it's like the 6 o'clock game or the 5 o'clock game or 5:30 is get it out of the way.
I think
Nobody
they played
cares.
it at 11 last year, so
Yeah, and that was a great experience. Yeah, very nice.
was fun.
Underwood's really killed it against Missouri. Second heavyweight battle of the season for the Illini, though Duke does not have the defense that Baylor has, which I don't really think anybody does.
Not even close.
I mean, West Virginia is a team that's known as being good defensively, and Gonzaga dropped 87 on them. So,
right.
let's look at Duke and their players. I mean, they're a typical Duke team. They don't have that much experience, and I think they have less experience now in terms of the guys that play than they've had in the past. I mean, Goldwire's a guy that's been there a couple of years and he's played. He hasn't produced very much, but they don't have Trey Jones or Tyus Jones, the guards used to run the show. They don't have those guys anymore, but they got some stud freshmen. Jalen Johnson, a 5-star, already averaging 15 points and 11 rebounds. I think Duke is 1-1 because they beat Coppin State by 10, and then they
that was a close
lost
game.
to Michigan State. It was pretty close. Duke has had some struggles to start the season, as has Kentucky, as has Kansas. So those blue blood programs, and North Carolina as well, the 4 main ones really, have struggled a little bit to start the year, which typically they do because, freshmen, I think the biggest thing in college basketball when you look at it is experience trumps talent in the first couple months of the season most of the time. You look at Richmond, they're an experienced team. They beat Kentucky, so I think that's a big factor here as well. And Illinois has a chance. Illinois is a much more experienced team in the starting 5 than Duke is. Now, Duke's had guys that have played in the tournament before, I guess, but, he's shooting 63% from the field, 6'9" forward. Who do you think is going to guard him? I mean, they have 2 guys in the starting lineup that are 6'9" forwards that are their leading scorers, Jalen Johnson and Matthew Hurt. Matthew Hurt's averaging 16 and 10. He's been a little less efficient, shooting around 40%, but that's 2 6'9" forwards. How are you going to play that matchup? That's tough. That's going to be a big factor.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Zone?
You can't put DeMonte on him. Yeah, he can run his own. I mean, Kofi wouldn't be able to handle him.
Yeah, I think they're both guys that can shoot the ball too. And Kofi can't handle that.
Maybe Hawkins is going to see some time.
I mean, maybe Io does some of it.
That's why
on switches. He's got the most length of the guards that start, and Miller's strong enough to handle someone that's a little short. I mean, 6'9". They don't have anybody that can do that. Maybe Grandison gets some minutes defensively.
Yeah, Grandison. Speaking of Grandison, I think he played 2 minutes the last game. So I don't know what happened.
Didn't Bosmans Verdonk, your boy, didn't he dress?
He dressed. Yes, he did.
Maybe he'll get some minutes. I don't know. They got a lot of options. It's just, do you trust any of them that much?
Right.
No.
Right.
Especially defensively, no.
Yeah, because you look at Hawkins and Grandison in this Baylor game, they only had 7 combined minutes. So, which I don't think they ever did anything wrong in the game that justified that, but maybe they were a step slow on defense. I didn't see it, but I don't know.
Yeah. You have another Chicago, Illinois freshman, 5-star DJ Stewart, who's really good, averaging 15 points through a couple of games. I'm assuming he'll be matched up with DeMonte or Trent, one of the two. Probably DeMonte, I would think. It could be Trent, though. He's really good. He's another freshman, though. Freshmen, they have some issues early in the season a lot of times, whether they're this good or not. I mean, there's very few freshmen that are 5-star guys or 4-star guys that come in and light it up night in, night out. And
Right.
Duke's had some problems in terms of being able to play experienced teams successfully. Michigan State isn't even that experienced. I mean, they are, but they're not like Richmond or Gonzaga experienced, and Michigan State beat them up heavily. That game was a lot closer than it actually was.
Right.
And then you look at their offensive proximity stat, which is very important. Everybody cares about that one. They're ninth in offensive proximity.
Stat, that's what I usually go to.
So what that means, them being ninth, basically means that they are able to create a lot of space and get open shots. So they have the best amount of proximity between the defender and the player when they're shooting the ball.
So you can't miss assignments and
exactly
not close out on people.
I also forgot this part. They're Haslametrics. Haslametrics.com, shout out. They're 8th overall in the country as of last night in terms of being overall in the rankings. I use too many words. I think Illinois is like 23rd or something. They're not very high on there yet. Duke is 12th in offensive efficiency, 10th in defensive efficiency, and 10th in field goal percentage. So they're 1-1.
Pretty good numbers, but
they played Coppin State. I'm sure a lot of the stats in that game help, even though it was kind of a close game. I don't think there was any doubt.
They probably got to hold out, right?
I don't think there was any doubt that Duke was going to lose that game.
Maybe that was their plan to keep it close, so the Haslametrics look better.
That could be what Coach K was drawing up on the big board. Definitely,
hey, he's a lot smarter than a lot of coaches. I'm just saying.
So overall, like we mentioned, Duke has a very talented and inexperienced team that hasn't been off to a hot start. Either way, though, this is a tough game. This is a team with a great coach, very talented team. I mean, you got to make it. Illinois has to find a way to be physical, get away with it, and get in transition. Duke has a lot of talent at guard, not as much talent, not even close to as much talent as Baylor has at guard, but you can run the floor on these guys. Matthew Hurt, 6'9", he's not going to be able to run the floor with IO or any of those guys, and that's just a big thing. I want to look up Duke's rotation so I can kind of get an idea of how they start their lineup, because I want to see what kind of size they have in their lineup. So go ahead and say something cool for the audience.
Say something cool. I mean, it's going to be a lot different going to Duke, and they're not being fans. I think that's definitely going to help Illinois. You look at like the Baylor game and the Ohio game, and it's a lot of bench that's bringing the excitement and stuff. I mean, Baylor's bench was off the wall. I think they almost got a warning. So, but it's going to be a different place to play. And they've played 2 home games so far, and they've been taken to the wire. And lost one, and then Coppin State, was close, a lot closer than it probably should have been. And you got to think that no fans in Cameron is part of that.
So Duke's game on Sunday against Elon was postponed, but they will play Bellarmine or however the hell you say that tonight at 6. So they'll have one game before they play Illinois.
And that's Illinois isn't going to have that prepper game. I don't know if that matters.
I don't think it does. It doesn't.
That bounce back game after getting beat by Baylor, but maybe they'll have more intensity going in because they just came off a loss too.
Yeah.
I don't know. So
looking at Duke's starting lineup, they go with Jalen Johnson, who's 6'9" freshman. Like I said, they have Wendell Moore Jr., who's a 6'5" sophomore. They have Matthew Hurt, who's another 6'9" player. They have DJ Stewart, who's only like 6'2", I think. Then they have Jeremy Roach, a 6'1" freshman. So their guards are small. Their forwards 6'5", 6'9", 6'9". So, I think I like Illinois' matchups a lot defensively with the guard position. Now, I know Stewart is as good as he was, but think about this. In the Michigan State game, really the game that you want to look at with Duke, the one good team they've played so far. DJ Stewart, 0 of 7 from the field, 0 of 3 from three-point range. He had 6 points, and all of them were at the free throw line. So I like Illinois' matchups in terms of defensively against these guards. Now, you got to think about this. Their 2 biggest guys are both 6'9". Kofi's got to go up against one of them, right? That's tough.
Yeah, I was just trying to see how big they were. They're both 6'9", about 220.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna have to put. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how much time Kofi gets. I mean, he's not going to be maybe they do run his zone,
Both of
but
those guys can knock it down too from three.
yeah. So I guess it depends how they want to attack it, but
In that
having
Michigan
Kofi in there.
In that Michigan State game, Duke shot horribly. I mean, they were 32% from the field, 21% from three. Wendell Moore Jr., who's another starter that I mentioned, a 6'5" forward, he went 0 for 9 from the field, 0 of 6 from three. So they had two guys that didn't make a shot in their starting lineup. But they're good from the line. They shot 80%, 24 of 30 from the line. So don't foul.
And they get there a lot, huh?
Especially at Cameron Indoor. So Matthew Hurt was really.
How many fans? We got 3 refs.
Yeah, Matthew Hurt was really the only one that showed up for them. He had 21 points and 13 rebounds in that game against Michigan State. So, I like a lot of the matchups defensively, but a little bit worried about Kofi guarding someone who's likely faster than him and can step outside and shoot it more often than other people that he would go up against. That being said, predictions, I'll let you go first. What do you got?
I had Illinois winning this game in my thing. I'm going to try to stick with that kind of through the season, but we'll see how it goes down the road. I got Illinois winning this 85-78. I don't think that Duke's defense is even in the same ballpark as Baylor's. I think Illinois is going to get some more points up. They're going to come out hungry, and they're going to put up a bunch. So I got a 7-point win. Go Illini.
Yeah, I'll also have the Illini winning 72-68, 4-point game. I think free throws are going to make a big difference in this game. Illinois got to make theirs. No stupid mistakes defensively. Don't run a stupid offense where you're just standing there for 25 seconds.
Right.
And I'm assuming it's going to feel like a different. I mean, Duke's defense is still pretty good, right? I mean, they're still solid and as good as you'd expect Coach K's team to be defensively, but it's going to feel a little different because they're going to get a lot better looks in this game. Sure. Because the looks that they got against Baylor were not good, and that was mostly Baylor's defense. The other part of it, though, was the offense just being embarrassingly bad and run poorly. But how often do you want Io manning the point in these games?
This game, I don't know if it's going to matter as much.
It's not going to be up against a big physical guard in this game either.
I would like to see Io come off some off the ball screens, run the baseline a little bit. They just don't ever seem to run that, and they don't run it for anything. They don't run it for Miller. They don't run it for Trent. It'd be nice to see Kofi put a body on somebody as they're trying to run through the lane, and show them that they're there, that he's there. But I don't know. This will be a game where I think that we're getting to the point where does Curbelo come in and start being a point guard for this team? Got a little taste of it with Baylor. I think that you have to move in that direction somewhat before we start getting into Big Ten games. So we'll see. It'd be interesting.
What do you think? Who do you think is going to match up with Io? I mean, I'm thinking it might be Wendell Moore Jr. because they're like the same size and he can keep up with them. But I'm hoping they have Jalen Johnson or Matthew Hurt on Io. Io just fly by every time.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. But
well, these teams in terms of starting lineups and size wise, you size them up. Illinois has a couple of guards that are good size. What's Adam Miller, like 6'3"-ish, 6'4", whatever. And Io's 6'5". You got Trent at 6'2", which I don't know if I buy that. DeMonte around the same. And then you got Kofi, 7-footer. And then you got a lot of guys off the bench. I mean, they got a lot of different combinations off the bench as well. And I think Curbelo is going to be a big part of this game in terms of energy coming off the bench, getting the guys going. I think we will see more often, even if Kofi's not in as much foul trouble as he's been in, at least as he was in the Baylor game, I think we'll see Georgie out there a lot in this game. I think a lineup with Curbelo and Io and Miller and Georgie and then whoever else you want to throw in there would work in this game more often than the others. So I don't know. I think they'll win. I don't know if they lose this game. Get ready for the overreactions because they're going to be off the charts.
It'll be interesting to see how Illinois plays against a team that doesn't have a true center with Kofi.
Well, I mean, Baylor didn't really have that,
but they didn't have guys that went out and shot the ball. I mean,
yeah, I guess
whatever his face is,
right.
What was his name? Chekawa.
The people get it.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Transfer from UNLV.
Yeah. So.
All right. So what's next is this episode 37. I'm assuming I just wrote this down. I'm assuming we'll just do it next Friday, December 11th, with a preview of the Illini's bragging rights showdown with Missouri, and then we'll also preview their first game against Minnesota, plus reviewing the Duke game, and hopefully Duke and Illinois play a nice, clean game that Illinois wins.
Hopefully it happens.
That's the first step, I suppose.
That's where we're at now. I mean, I feel like the bigger programs are going to have this under control a lot better.
Most of them do. I mean, you look at the ones that have had issues. Baylor had an early issue. Tennessee.
But there hasn't been. But
nobody
Baylor,
in the Big Ten's had any issues. Yeah. But teams were afraid, so Baylor left Mohegan Sun. They were going to play those games.
Right.
Can you imagine how good Baylor would be against Illinois if they had the actual good tune-up games? Oh my God!
Yeah.
They played Washington and whoever the other team was and just killed them. So there you go. And then watch party action will come on December 12th at 7. I think we'll start that around 6:40, kind of pregame action and watch the game live. And right, exactly. That'll be
shave Ethan's mustache off.
It'll be gone by then, I think. Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook will be live on all of those. You can join us there. I'll do some more advertising for it this week as we get closer to it on the 12th. Remember, we can't show the game on the screen, so don't be an idiot and think that we can.
Stop calling them idiots.
Well, I think the people that would think that are usually trolls that are in every YouTube chat that does something like this. So, we'll see you next Friday for the episode 37. Hopefully Illinois wins against Duke, and then the whole thing Saturday and the whole big deal. Whatever. All right.
Yeah.